Hello my wonderful, beautiful friends, guys. Welcome back to r/MaliciousCompliance, where people follow exact orders to spite someone. And in today's episode, the stories are so satisfying. Guys, we've got bad bosses, smug grocery store Karens, a nasty divorce that ends horribly for OP's wife, and one person tells a story about the time their mom single-handedly gets a business shut down. Guys, it's wild. I hope you enjoy the stories, don't shake your heads too hard, and as always, you can send or link your post to this email right here. Let's dive in. A few years ago, I worked as a tech support guy/salesperson at a small family-owned computer store in my hometown. This wasn't a franchise, just a local shop, and the owner was a mustached, arrogant dude who could never admit when he was wrong. No matter what went wrong, it was always someone else's fault. That constant blame game was a big reason why I ended up quitting, but that's another story. At the time, my main job was delivering products to clients and doing on-site tech support at their homes or businesses. Now, for some context, my boss was obsessed with the idea that I was way too slow during client visits. No matter how long I actually took, be it 5 minutes or 2 hours, it was always too much in his eyes. The guy couldn't seem to understand that tech problems vary, and they can take different amounts of time to fix. And of course, he loved to compare us to past employees. He would say stuff like, "Back when so-and-so worked here, he was way faster than you. I'd pay good money to have him back so I can boot you out the door." Now, the funny thing is, I knew that when so-and-so worked there, the boss used to say that he was too slow and someone else was better. That was his thing, just guilt-tripping whoever was working for him at the time. And yes, the guy was insufferable. So that said, fast forward a bit. One day, my boss was in an extra bad mood, and he wanted to flex his power over me. So he decided that from now on, I need to message him every single time I finished with a client, and wait for his reply before moving on. Same thing when I arrived somewhere. I would have to message him to say I arrived. He wanted this done through WhatsApp, SMS, or even a phone call. Basically, the guy didn't trust that I was working, and he thought that I might be wasting time between clients, or just riding around town, or going home to take a nap. I was annoyed, but sure, whatever, rules are rules. So on day one, I follow the rule to the letter. I arrive at a client and I sent him a message. When I finished the job, I sent him a message and waited. I lost way more time waiting for responses than I ever did between jobs, but okay. On day number 2, the same deal. The morning went by, and after lunch, I load up and head out. The first client of the afternoon, I messaged when I arrived. He replied. I then fixed the issue, which didn't even take 30 minutes, so I messaged him again when I finished. There was no response, so I wait 5 minutes and then nothing. I called him, no answer. I then wait another 5 minutes, still nothing. At this point, I sat down on the curb under a tree and waited. I watched some videos, scrolled through Facebook, chatted with friends, all that stuff. I waited and waited. I waited so much that 3 hours passed. I just sat there doing nothing, waiting on my boss who demanded that I never move on without his go-ahead. Eventually, my phone rings. My boss is livid and he screams, "Where the heck are you?" I respond, "I'm still at client X's place." My boss says, "Still? He was the first one this afternoon. The day's almost over. What are you doing?" He then says, "Just get back here," and I tell him I'm on my way now. I got back to the store and I was greeted by him, practically foaming at the mouth. He screams at me and says, "Why the hell did you take so long? You're so slow. I should fire you right now." That's when I look him straight in the eye and I said, "Hey, I was following your rule. You told me to notify you every time I finished a client and wait for a reply before moving on. You didn't respond, so I waited. I would never go against your orders." Hearing me say that, the guy froze. He just stared at me. He didn't know what to say. He then tried to backpedal and he said, Well, you should have used common sense. If I don't answer, it's because I was busy. Just move on. Turns out, he had spent the whole afternoon dealing with contractors and problems at his house renovation, and the guy completely forgot he'd given me that rule. Needless to say, that rule was never mentioned again. I went back to the old way of doing things, but of course, he still kept complaining that I took too long with clients. Some things never change. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that boss sounds like somebody who'd probably yell at a vending machine if it was too slow. But hey, gotta love the fact that OP stuck to his rules and made the boss look ridiculous. And guys, with reading all of these stories, I've learned that sometimes the best way to handle nonsense is to just go full-on script, even if it means sitting around waiting for 3 frickin' hours. With that said though, how many of you would be doing the same thing to teach your boss a lesson? Like, I feel like I would, but at the same time, it wouldn't feel right just sitting there for hours on end. But hey, that's malicious compliance for you. There is a long backstory, so buckle up. I have a 5-year-old daughter with my ex-wife, and we broke up about 2.5 years ago. We had some ups and downs during our marriage. Now, we never argued or fought per se, but we did negotiate a lot with strong emotions and opinions. But we always managed to find some common ground to stand on together. That's why it kind of caught me by surprise when she told me she wanted a divorce. I cried for a couple of days and then went fishing and then started to plan on how to figure things out. Because neither of us had enough income at that point to keep our car and/or house, we agreed that I should take care of selling the car, and she would get a realtor to start selling our home. Well, it turns out I had to do both as she spent most of her time hanging out with friends. Anyway, we had more debt than money, and she tried to leave all the debt to me while she would start from a clean slate. I wouldn't let her though. I made sure everything we owned and every bit of debt would be split evenly. We then agreed that our daughter would live with both of us, splitting the time evenly as our daughter had the right to having 2 parents. We promised each other to act civil, but that doesn't last long. We also agreed that since our salaries were pretty even, neither of us would pay child support. We also agreed that she would take care of buying most of the clothes, etc. for our kid, since she would get the child benefit. After the breakup, she starts ordering new furniture for herself, even before she had found a new apartment for herself. And it's kind of obvious, but she didn't really have the money for it either. 2 weeks later, she moved out, and a week later, I hear from our kid that she has a new boyfriend. Now, I didn't really care, that just raised some eyebrows. Well, because of her new man, she would often call in sick to her work, and when her boss gave some feedback, she just quit. After about 2 months, she starts harassing me, demanding I pay child support. We got a professional to weigh in, and they agreed that I still wouldn't pay a dime to her because she herself had caused her income to collapse. As a goodwill act, I offered to pay for everything for our daughter until she got back on her feet. I thought the matter was settled, but then she gets pregnant with her new man, a few weeks after our breakup. After our divorce was final, not soon after, she marries her new man. With these things happening, it empowers her into demanding money again and again and again. So now that you know what kind of person we're dealing with, last fall, she yet again demands more money to support our kid. She was working again, and I knew that she used our kid as an excuse because she expressed envy towards my ability to control my finances, to a point that even when I had the same amount of money, I could eat in restaurants, etc. So I told her that if she needed child support for legitimate reasons, I would of course help. But all the expenses would have to be calculated properly to know the right amount she would need. Instead, she demands I pay her this ridiculous amount per month, and she would take care of all the expenses regarding our daughter. On top of her demand, this time, she threatens to sue me if I didn't pay her. I pretty much laughed at it until I get a message from her lawyer. At that point, I message my ex, telling her from now on I would only discuss this matter via the lawyers, and I start looking for a lawyer myself. During the next couple of months, things start to look really bad for her case. After getting the papers from court, I noticed her case was based on false data. She and her lawyer hadn't asked for my income and expenses before they sued me, and she had estimated my income to be a lot more than it actually was. Also, my expenses were estimated to be smaller than actual. At this point, I messaged my ex and I asked if she's sure she doesn't want to settle. She didn't. She literally tells me I don't want to settle. We're going to court so you can pay me. So that's when I decided to go with some malicious compliance. If she wants to take it to court, we're taking it all the way to court. So after we both calculated every income and expense of both parties, with the help of our lawyers, we find out that she actually had more money than me. I just burst out laughing. A couple of days go by and my lawyer calls me. She had gotten a call from my ex's lawyer saying that he noticed my ex is lying and the whole case is based on lies, and the lawyer wants to settle without going to court. That's when I say, no, she wants to take it all the way to court, so that's what we're doing. Game on. So we end up going to court. The judge was annoyed but composed. He then asked my ex's lawyer about their demands. The lawyer starts off by saying, "First, I'm gonna tell you a bit of backstory." And the judge cuts him off, telling him to state the demands. After a few seconds of silence, the lawyer tells the judge there's no demands. The judge was both dumbfounded and livid, asking, "Then why are we here?" To which my lawyer said something along the lines of, "That's what we're asking too." The judge then asked my ex's lawyer to be clear, "Didn't you want to settle?" The lawyer sheepishly told the judge that my ex wouldn't agree to settle. That's why they're here. They were so embarrassed, it was glorious, like some kind of divine karma being served right at my Karen of an ex. The judge then orders us to go to a meeting room for 20 minutes and to come back with a settlement agreement. Because she had more money, we negotiated that she would pay for our kids' hobbies, insurance, etc. to compensate for the difference. The judge verified it, and my party left the courtroom very happy. My ex, on the other hand, was balancing between being angry and embarrassed. And here's the fallout. A couple of weeks ago, my ex demanded that we would make changes to the schedule on how our kid would swap homes. I declined, saying we have an agreement. She then threatened to sue me again, to which I just reminded her about the last time she wanted to get what she wants by suing me, asking if she really wants to do it again. She then got mad and I ignored it. About a week ago, I find out through a mutual friend saying that they learned she had a fight with her husband and police were called because she attacked him. She now wants a divorce. The police had to inform Child Protective Services since there were kids present, mine included. So basically, her whole life has gone down the drain. 2 kids to different fathers and 2 divorces before she's even turned 30, along with a lot of debt and expenses. And it looks like our kid will be spending the majority of her time at my place, which is what she's been wanting for the past 2-ish years. The post ends right there, guys, but talk about a master plan backfiring so hard on OP's ex-wife. And I love stories like this. Like, imagine being all smug and wanting a huge payout, all to find out that your case has fallen apart and you owe money in the end. Like, that is frickin' karma. With that said though, I'm glad it worked out for OP in the end, and if that ending wasn't satisfying enough for you, OP does come back to say, "I've never been happier. I also have a new wifey, not married yet, and my kid loves her new stepmom. Also, I'm seriously pushing for our kid to stay here most of her time and visiting mom occasionally." So I worked in a deli inside a grocery store, and all we did was cut meat. There was this really rude lady who would always order the smokehouse ham, but she would always call it plain ham. Now, we did have a plain ham that had no extra flavor. It was just ham, salt, and water. But the woman wanted the smokehouse ham. She was probably mid-40s, always dressed to the nines, and she always bitched when there was a long line at the deli counter. That's because she always did all of her grocery shopping on the weekend. One day, after telling her repeatedly that smoked ham is in fact not plain ham, when she made her weekly appearance, it was during a huge customer rush. I see her join the line with about 6 people deep and 2 people working the counter, and she gets progressively more angry as she had to wait 5 minutes until I helped her. We're talking foot tapping, muttering under her breath, looking at her watch, dramatic sighs, the works. I keep an eye on her while I and my coworker are clearly rushing to help get the line down. Finally, she gets to me, and before I can even finish my first sentence, saying, "Hi, how can I help?" I get cut off, and Karen screams at me and says, "It's about damn time. Get me half a pound of plain ham, now." Now, I know what she wants, but what she asked for is on sale, in the case right in front of her, under her very nose. And since it was on sale, I'd pre-sliced a full tray of it, and it was ready to go. Plausible deniability. So I reach down, grab half a pound of meat, and throw it in the Ziploc baggie for her. I then weigh it, slap the sticker on it, and then hand it to her. Before she could even realize her mistake, I say, "Thanks for shopping with us. Have a great day." I said that with my brightest customer service smile, and immediately turned to the next customer saying, "Hi, how can I help you today?" Well, this rude Karen gets a look like I just crapped in a bag and handed it to her. While I'm helping the current customer, she stomps over to me and she interrupts saying, "Excuse me, stop what you're doing right now. What is this?" She then throws the bag right at me. With a confused look on my face, I say, half a pound of plain ham, like you asked. I can see that she's still waiting for me to come back to her and serve her, but she'd made it very clear what she wanted, and she was in a hurry, and as I've already given it to her, she didn't need my further assistance. She then gets mad, silently, just watching as I cheerfully help all the other customers. The line doesn't die down. She then stomps off to the customer service desk and she returns with not my manager, but the entire store manager 15 minutes later. He comes into the deli and he says, "Hey, so that lady out there said you gave her the wrong order." With an innocent look on my face, I say, "I remember her. She was really rude in line and at the counter." The extent of her order was, and I quote, "Get me half a pound of plain ham, now." So I gave her half a pound of plain ham. It's on sale this week, and the entire transaction took under 30 seconds. Because we already have plain ham sliced for the sale this week on plain ham. I was super polite to her. The manager rolls his eyes and he says, "Well, she says she doesn't want this ham, she wants the other plain ham." I reply, "We literally only sell one brand of plain ham. We don't have other plain hams. That's it, and it's on sale this week." He then walks out from behind the counter and he starts to explain to her how wrong she is, when she starts pointing to the smokehouse ham that she really wanted, and she's furious. The woman's red-faced and she's throwing a quiet temper tantrum as the manager returns to me and says she wants that plain ham. With a confused look on my face, I say, "But that's smoked ham." She said, "Plain ham. Are you sure she wants smoked?" This is smokehouse ham. It's definitely smoke flavored and not plain. The manager goes back to double check and then comes back to me and confirms with me. I then look her dead in the eyes and I say, "I'm so sorry for the confusion, ma'am. I'll go get your smoked ham sliced. Next time, please make sure that you're ordering the correct ham when you're at the counter. The only plain ham we sell is this one." I then hold it up for her to see. I say, "Smokehouse ham is a smoked ham. Let us know that you want the smokehouse and we won't run into this issue again." And since I said it with my perfect customer service face on while standing next to the store manager, the woman had to stand there while she was steaming, puckered, lemon-faced, as she was lectured by me, a 20-year-old. All in all, I got the pettiest of revenges by wasting her time and putting her in a position where I was able to condescendingly talk down to her and explain her mistake in public with a crowd around us because it never stopped being busy. My manager said that he got a compliment from the store manager on how well I handled an upset and abusive customer that day. Listen guys, having worked customer service before, Opie did what a lot of people only dream of doing when working in retail. They got to tell off a nasty Karen and there wasn't a darn thing she could do about it. Like, people like her take the customer is always right to the next level, and one can only hope she learned a lesson after what happened. So to begin, my mother was a truly inspiring woman. Her favorite phrase was, "Why say bleed when you can say hemorrhage?" Because she never did anything halfway when she knew she could go all the way. We couldn't even ask for help with homework because you'd be up till 3 a.m. on a school night, adding one more thing. And then you'd go to school with this magnum opus while everyone around you phoned it in and still got an A. She would rarely get angry, but if you activated her righteous indignation, the repercussions would be legendary. There was one such story of malicious compliance that she always loved to tell, and I just found the receipts, so I wanted to share it with everyone. It all started one day when I find a dagger in my brother's room. It was an ornate sort of fantasy-style dagger, not something you'd find just anywhere, and it was very sharp. That said, we were not old enough to have something like that at the time, as he was only 11 years old. Immediately, my mom walks up behind me and she catches me red-handed. So I did what any self-respecting little brother would do, and I throw him right under the bus. My brother wasn't home at the time, so she went through everything and she finds more of these knives. She laid them out on the table and she was psyching herself up for the hell she was gonna bring down upon him. By the time my brother gets home, well, I'm sure you can guess. He walks in and he sees her sitting there with the knives out and he goes white as a sheet. She immediately asks where he got them. This was the late 90s and my brother was pretty into Magic the Gathering. The card shop that he went for his fix was just down the street. He spent a great deal of time there and he bought boxes and boxes of these cards from them. So they knew him and they knew he was way too young. They had sold it to him knowing full well that he was underage, no questions asked. My mom's jaw dropped, and moments later, holy moly, we were pulling up to the place. She then drags my brother into the store and she puts the knives down in front of the woman who owns the place. She then tells her that they had sold it to him, to which the owner says, "Yeah, so what?" My mom says, "Well, he's not 18, he shouldn't have access to these. You need to tell your employees to check IDs before they sell weapons to minors." My mom was willing to give her the benefit of the doubt before the woman snaps back with, "It's a joke, it's humor, don't you get it?" And my mother thought, "Oh, so the problem is you." She then says, "I'm his mother, and I don't think it's funny. If you won't follow the law, at the very least, I need you to stop selling weapons to my son." Well, the owner says, "I'll do whatever I want. I'm the store owner. If you don't like it, tell the news." Surely, this woman doesn't know who she's talking to, or the lengths that my mom was willing to go through for her kids. I don't know why on earth that would be the phrase you'd use. Now you're just asking for it. So my mom gives her one last chance before the hammer drops. My mom says, "So you're saying that even without my permission, and having asked you not to personally, and knowing it's illegal, you would still sell a knife to my son? You would sell a knife to my underaged son?" The owner then says, "Of course, this is a business. Maybe raise him better and teach him to not buy knives." Well, when that came out of the owner's mouth, it was like the air left the room. Picture 3 of us boys, in elementary, middle school, and high school around the time. My mom was the president of all 3 PTAs for 3 different schools, miles apart from each other. She was practically momming as a sport. My mother is no woman to mess with. My mom didn't say another word. She just gathered the knives and we walked out. Even the woman behind the desk looked a little shocked that she was walking out, and so was I. We all went back to the car and no one said a word. And then you could almost visibly see the resolve set in. My mom then says, "Well, I guess we're going to the news then." I don't remember her saying another word the rest of the night. The next day, I wake up and she had papers all around her that she printed off and highlighted. She was on the phone explaining the story to a news station who had just opened and responding to emails she sent overnight. I don't think mom slept. She had been up researching the laws and building her case. The first reporter she talked to didn't seem to see what she saw in the story, and they told her they wouldn't pick it up. Every time she was told no, she would ask for references to someone who would do something like this. It took weeks of phone tag. She called the next reporter, then another, leaving messages and following up. Finally, she finds an investigative reporter who would work with her. Together, they decided the best course of action was to put a hidden camera on my brother, to send him undercover to buy something larger, and believe me, I'm well aware of how outlandish that sounds. They then met up down the street and they gave my brother some money to buy the biggest weapon he could get. I remember it being $120. They then wire him up with a microphone and a spy camera they bought at Radio Shack. He then went in and bought a legit full sword from the place. They jokingly told him not to kill anyone with it as he was walking out and never asked to see ID. Afterwards, the reporter interviews the store owner, who stuck with her old fallback of it being funny to sell deadly weapons to kids. They then interviewed my mom outside the shop, and the two of them argued on camera. Maybe because they caught her on hidden camera, she felt the need to double down. She had to think that people would side with her for some reason. She was irate. My mom just kept feeding her the rope to hang herself with, and the shop owner tied the whole thing into a neatly wrapped bow for the reporter. Like, just a spectacular failure on her part. It's hard to imagine how it could have gone worse. Sure, it was just a local news report from the 90s, but for my mom, it was her hero moment. She knew she was right, and she knew this person had to be stopped, and she did it all the way, just like everything she ever did. In the report, they say they went back and the place was already closed. Within a month, it was completely out of business. The reporter won an award for the piece, and the righteous indignation was satiated for the time being. My mom recorded the airing of the report on a VHS tape, and every chance she got, she would parade it around to show people her crowning achievement. She would tell the whole story, and we'd all watch the tape until it was lost to time and became a legend. Guys, what a story that was, and what a fallout that was. Like, I'm just curious how the store owner thought it was wise to dare OP's mom to go to the news outlets when she full-on knew what she was doing was illegal. And also, even if the store wasn't fully shut down, I can only imagine the trouble she got into and the fines she'd have to pay for doing stuff like that. And this person says it the best. They say, there's a special kind of brilliance in people who treat being underestimated as an opportunity rather than an insult. Your mom weaponized competence in the most surgical way possible. No shouting, no chaos, just quiet devastation delivered with facts and follow through. With that said, guys, OP does give us a link to the video, and I'll post it in the description box for all who care to see. And that, my friends, brings us to another end of r / malicious compliance. Guys, I hope you enjoyed today's stories. If you did, hit that thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing so you don't miss these crazy, crazy stories. And if you missed yesterday's episode on the channel, it's an r / entitled people episode, where psycho Karens won't stop getting arrested for the most ridiculous reasons. Guys, go check it out if you haven't, and myself and Stevie Boy will see you guys in the next one. We love you.